Relationships in human life is between the caring father and his loving daughter. One of the rare occasions that this relationship is acknowledged is at a wedding ceremony. Ludwig represents all of us. He particularly represents his family. But today, in a special gesture, he symbolises his own personal love for his daughter. So now, mindful of this, I ask him, Ludwig, who brings this woman to be married to this man?
I do.
You do. Thank you, Ludwig. If you could be seated now, please. Could I get you to be seated now, please? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as friends and family of them both, you will know that Steve and Julia have been together for some time. I asked them for their love story, which I abbreviated somewhat, I might tell you. So here it is. They met more than 3 years ago in Kununurra. Both remember it well. It was the 8th of October 2006. They were travelling together with their newfound friends, Jules and Pete. These two have now become close friends. They were first met at the Lakeside Resort Caravan Park, where they started talking in the pool. Then they all ended up travelling together for a month. After sharing adventures like the Alquestro Gorge along the Gibb, the Toad Muster in Timber Creek, canoeing the Catherine George, they ended up in Darwin. I think we can safely say that attraction was building. Julia helped Steve go shopping for work clothes. She also took him to the doctor's surgery when he crashed off his mountain bike. When the group split up, Steve went home to be with a very sick mother, and the girls continued on their exploration of Australia. They exchanged gifts at that point, a lovely pen for diary keeping for Julia, and a message stone for help for Steve's mum. They met up again for Steve's birthday, and after a few visits, Julia ended up staying 2 months with Steve on Kevin's farm at Teresa Creek. This is where Julia not only fell in love with Australia, but with Steve also. As Julia put it, the relationship to Stephen grew to be something more than just friends and holding hands, and we couldn't spend enough time together. We even went very spontaneously to a piercing studio and got nipple piercings done. Great love. At the end of July 2007, Julia's visa had run out and she had to go back to Germany. Steve followed her 2 weeks later and formally proposed on the 16th of September 2007. This was at a dinner with her family. It was almost a year after they met. He stayed for 6 months before they both returned to Australia. 2 years, horse racing in Broome, a snake bite, a bunged knee, 2 trips around Australia, they moved to Tasmania, and 24,156 kilometres later, which is not including the current trip, they finally made it for the wedding here today. Ladies and gentlemen, this ceremony is to give social recognition to a union which has already taken place in their hearts. Julia and Steve decided to seal their marriage with this wedding ceremony before me and before you, their friends and family. They want to give public recognition to the private experience of their love. Marriage symbolises the intimate sharing of 2 lives. It does not diminish, but rather enhances the individuality of each partner. A marriage that lasts is one which is continually developing, and in which each partner is individually evolving. This while they're growing in understanding of each other. Without love, life is nothing. Love is a promise that is always kept. Love Julia and Steve, is the reason why this day was chosen by both of you to begin your lives together. And love is the reason why both of you will give with all of your hearts for the good of each other. Love is the reason that together you will become one. One in hope, one in believing in life, and one in sharing in the coming years. This is an excerpt from The Art of Good Marriage. A good marriage must be created. In marriage, the little things are the big things. It is never being too old to hold hands. It is remembering to say, I love you, at least once a day. It is never going to sleep angry. It is having a mutual sense of values and common objectives. It is standing together and facing the world. It is forming a circle that gathers in the whole family. It is speaking words of appreciation and demonstrating gratitude in thoughtful ways. It is also having the capacity to forgive and to forget. It is giving each other an atmosphere in which each can grow. It is the common good for the search for the good and the beautiful. It is not only marrying the right person, it is in being the right person. At this point, I would like to take a moment to mention that there are those who are close to Julia and Stephen who couldn't travel to be here today, but we do know that their thoughts and blessings are with our couple. Also, there are loved ones who are no longer here in body, but who are here in spirit, we are sure, especially Stephen's mum, Jan. Let us remember her now in a moment of silence as Rebecca and Daniel light the candle for Jan, which symbolises her spirit being here with us today. So if Rebecca and Daniel. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen and Julia both value family and friends deeply, and they would like to take a moment to acknowledge the relationship they share with their parents. Ludwig and Gabriella, Ella, Julia's parents, Stephen's mum Jan, who we know now is departed, Kevin his dad, and the matriarch of the family, Kevin's mum, Marge. Could I get you please to stand? Yeah, thank you. Ludwig and Gabriella, as those who have raised and nurtured Julia, do you give your blessing to this marriage and welcome Steve into the family as your son? Thank you. Kevin and Marge, as those who have raised and nurtured Steve, do you give your blessing to this marriage and welcome Julia into the family as your daughter and granddaughter? My pleasure. Thank you. You may sit. You want to move in where it's a little bit, you're not getting the sun on you? Yeah? You're right? Okay. No, I'm fine. I've done this before. Julia and Steve, before you're joined together today in marriage, in my presence and in the presence of all your family and friends, I'm required by the Marriage Act to remind you publicly of the solemn, the serious and the binding nature of the relationship